semi-final replay between Galway and Mayo. Now, in that, Michael Brennan of Galway was sent off for a foul on John Finn, but most of you felt that Finn wasn't hit as hard as he pretended. Now, this is what Maurice McCoy from Ballymena, County Antrim, had to say about it. He said Finn was guilty of both dangerous play and play acting in the sending off incident during that match. Now, as he was fouled, he kicked his feet up in the air close to his opponent's heads. The Galway number 15 then shouldered him on the way past, yet Finn fell to the ground, rolling in agony as he clutched his head. Now, we'll probably think this was what the referee saw as he was walking away at the time. Now, this resulted in both the number 15 being sent off and the incidents which followed, again resulting in another player off. Now, play acting is as common as off-the-ball incidents and is equally as deplorable. Now, looking at that incident again, John Finn was unquestionably, he made more of this push by Michael Brennan than perhaps he should have. Now, I spoke to Enda Colleran, who picked Finn as his man of the match, about it, now taking into account that Enda didn't have the benefit of action replay as he watched the game live. He made the point that Finn had taken a lot of punishment from some of the Galway players up to that point, and maybe in the end, perhaps he threw himself down in frustration. Anyway, John probably still gets the odd twinge on that jaw, which of course was well tested by a flying elbow, you'll remember, a few years ago at Croke Park. Well, now our next letter comes from John Courtney, the former Offaly manager. Long and excellent letter about the state of Gaelic games at the moment as he sees it. Now, it's too long, in fact, to read in full here, so I've picked out some of the main points from that. And he says, having attended many inter-county championship matches this year and having watched the Sunday game highlights of all your games in other provinces, two things come to mind. The standard of refereeing, number one, and two, the lack of control and discipline by players allowed by their managers. Players always seem to be criticised for their performances, but never the referee. And remember, he is the man who controls the game and who can be responsible for anything that happens on the field of play. The rules of the game are not being adhered to by the referees in general. To give you a few examples, the personal foul rule seems to have gone out the door and only dirty play by players warrants their names being taken. 2, referees never consult umpires if players impinge on the square rule. Number 3, referees are afraid to send players off early in the game because they feel it might ruin the game. Number 4, linesmen should be used as the referee's third eye, or the eyes of in the referee's back as in rugby, so the selection of these linesmen should be paramount by the referee or the association. They should actually be referees in their own right. And number 5, managers of teams are responsible for what their teams do or fail to do. And discipline by players is the responsibility of the manager. Some teams are a credit in football, and he mentions Cork, Donegal, Dublin, Monaghan, Mayo and Roscommon, and in hurling, Tipperary, Galway and Offaly. John Courtney is a man who always has some very deep thoughts about the standards in our national games. Perhaps I'll just throw that one over quickly to Brian. Brian, what do you think of the standards of refereeing?
Well, they wouldn't be as high as we would want them as the players, but I think the referees is under a lot of pressure by the rules changing reasonably quickly in the GAA. So I would like the referees to change inter-county and come from different provinces to referee, just as the teams do to play in the All-Ireland series.
Yes. Well, there certainly would be a point that would improve the standard just simply because of the point that you made. Well, now our next letter comes from Deirdre Shanahan from Doonbeg, County Clare, and Deirdre says that she enjoys the Sunday game and she watches every week, but of course she has a complaint. And that is showing the highlights of hurling before highlights of football on your show. Now, hurling is a very fast-flowing sport, as most times, and in my opinion, football is made to look slow and clumsy when shown after hurling. I thought this was evident last Sunday when the Mayo-Galway game was shown after the Offaly-Kilkenny game. Even though the Connacht final was a lively game, it looked awkward compared to the hurling final. Well, Deirdre, you know you're right. Hurling can make a football match coming after it look a bit slow. And normally we do show the football first. But last Sunday, our hurling action was a provincial final. The Galway-Mayo game, in fact, was a semi-final. So I hope you'll agree that the importance on the programme was rightly given to Offaly and Kilkenny. Well, that's our letter section for this week. And thank you very much for the huge postbag you've been sending in. And could I ask you, if you have a telephone, to include your number so that we can verify, if necessary, your letter. Well, now it's time for the rest of claim the championship crown in 3 of the provinces this summer. Well, that question